Eastern, and you'll see it all right here on the Fox News channel.
The best golfer of all the rich people is going to take that stage. If you were watching yesterday, they were already chanting Trump, 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 Trump. They said, hang on, he's going to be here tomorrow, so you know that everyone is just waiting for him to get there.
And the crowds are outside this morning. Griff Jenkins has been outside tracking it, lines around the block.
Geraldo Rivera is a rich guy, and he's also a golfer.
Are you a good golfer?
Have you ever hit a hole-in-one?
I have never hit a hole-in-one, but I was just thinking, I think Sean Hannity should challenge the president to see which rich guy is the best golfer.
I like that
idea.
idea.
Hannity could really whack it.
Can he?
Yeah, oh yeah. But Trump, have you ever seen him? You know, there's nothing more intense than teeing off at the first tee when all the cameras are on you.
Yes.
And invariably, Trump whacks it. Sometimes he has his overcoat on and he whacks it. Me, I'm lucky if I'm flailing away.
That's right. Geraldo knows about golf because he's got an annual golf tournament.
My 30th.
30 years. You've raised millions of dollars for that charity.
Tens of millions to open up small community-based residences for the developmentally disabled, the population that used to be in institutions that we managed to close with a series of exposés.
That's great.
All right. Well, the big thing that came out of yesterday.
Look at you two.
We do that all the time.
Did you get a memo?
Yesterday, I mean, I know you saw it. I thought that the highlight of the day was Reince Priebus on stage with Chief Strategist Steve Bannon, someone who we've not seen speak publicly since President Trump took office. And as our own Charles Cranheimer said, it was a reminder that he is the brains behind this operation. What he did was he doubled down on the mainstream media and on liberals. He said it is only going to get worse as we follow through with our promises. Here's what he said.
If you think they're going to give you your country back without a fight, you are sadly mistaken. Every day it is going to be a fight, and that is what I'm proudest about Donald Trump. All the opportunities he had to waver off this, all the people have come to him and said, oh, you got to moderate. Every day in the Oval Office, he tells Reince and I committed this to the American people, I promised this when I ran, and I'm going to deliver on this.
So he says they're going to deliver and not back down.
You know what was surprising? Just to see him speak, to see, you expected Darth Vader, and then Reince Priebus is Dr. No, so Darth Vader, Dr. No, spewing fire, to actually hear them cogently presenting their arguments. I think that was surprising and comforting.
Isn't that a reaction, though, to the very opposition media that he talks about? They've created this Darth figure character. Saturday Night Live literally portrays him as the Grim Reaper. I mean, it turns out he's a guy who's thoughtful and has thought these things through and is working with Donald Trump to make it happen.
I absolutely agree, Pete, but part of the thing has been that he has cultivated this aura of mystery. He has not spoken heretofore. And to see him come out and be not only relaxed and coherent, but also, making a powerful argument to that audience particularly, with no apologies. And I thought that it was very, very effective. Now, a lot of people obviously have tremendous misgivings on a lot of fronts. I'm sure we'll talk about it.
Well, we will indeed. But, talking about how he pulled back the curtain a little bit, we've got a soundbite where Steve Bannon, the chief strategist, made us realize that essentially the administration looking forward sees the world in three buckets, at least he does, and we've never heard it described this way, and it makes a lot of sense. Listen.
Look at the lines of work. I kind of break it out into three verticals or three buckets. The first is kind of national security and sovereignty, and that's your intelligence, the Defense Department, Homeland Security. The second line of work is what I refer to as economic nationalism, and that is Wilbur Ross at Commerce, Steve Mnuchin at Treasury, Lighthizer at Trade, Peter Navarro, Stephen Miller, these people that are rethinking how we're going to reconstruct our trade arrangements around the world. The third, broadly, line of work is what is deconstruction of the administrative state.
And it's really interesting because the way they see it, you've got these three buckets or teams where whatever comes our way, they will react.
That is a very powerful message. It is a plan of action. That's why I lament this administration allowing things like transgender bathrooms to dominate the headlines. Why in the world do we have to talk about transgender bathrooms when you have major issues, an economic reordering, this whole idea of economic nationalism, America first? These are very powerful, not that I necessarily agree with, but these are powerful, seductive ideas that should be the prime message of the administration, not transgender bedrooms, not I'm going to do away with marijuana legalization. I think those are distractions.
I don't think the administration wants those to be necessarily the top headlines right now. They don't have control, and that's something that Steve Bannon said, is the more that we follow through with our promises. And he also said to the audience, hold us accountable. These promises that we have made through the campaign, and now that we're in office, make sure that we follow through. But I don't think they have control over what the American people are hearing every day. That's the problem.
I don't know. That whole transgender bathroom, I thought that was a settled issue, and all of a sudden it's back, and now the president will be defensive in terms of, social liberalism.
But CPAC, no one's talking about that at CPAC.
Yeah,
if you're listening to speeches,
sure,
and that what we just played, that clip of Steve Bannon, they're talking about the issues that are most important to them in the White House, what's actually going on. And these are the people you need to hear from, because they're in there.
And Geraldo, the issue this week that the administration rolled out were the new immigration reform ideas where, unlike Barack Obama, this particular president and administration will enforce the laws of the land.
You have actually two voices, though, Steve, coming out on immigration. You have the Secretary of State, Rex Tillerson, in Mexico City with General Kelly.
No mass deportations.
No mass deportation and no military involvement. On the other hand, you have the administration figures in D.C. talking very tough, bare-knuckled, and scaring people. And I think that they should get on the same page. Well, because I think that what you don't want to do is why make people, but Pete, why make people frightened if you have a coherent, business-like approach? Again, not necessarily that I agree with, but that's what you present.
But Geraldo, it's been the mainstream media that has scared people, because the day after they rolled out, they unveiled what was going to be in the executive order, then the mainstream media said, get ready for mass deportations, which they're not talking about. They're talking about going after the worst of the worst, and if somebody who is in this country illegally with a criminal record is caught up in a raid, they're probably going to go home too.
I don't disagree substantively with your statement that these are reasonable rather than fringe kind of outrageous ideas. However, when you saw the less than 700 people arrested 2 weeks ago by ICE, it seemed as if it was 7 million, didn't it? I mean, it was like every news program, 24/7. My God, this is terrifying.
And that's where the fear
roundups
came from.
and all the
That's
rest of it.
That's where the fear came from.
But just imagine, that's 700. Now imagine 10 million. Now, how do you get from 700 to 10 million? Or can you get there in any kind of organized fashion? And I submit it's going to be extremely difficult for this president. And if we've been talking about a distraction now, imagine coming down.
One of the interesting parts about how they've characterized it to Steve Bannon as well, and we're watching live shots of CPAC because I believe Rob O'Neill will be stepping up to the podium here in a minute or two.
And we'll listen
tracking
to him.
all of that when they do. Is that he bucketed that first bucket as sovereignty and national security. It's a tying of the border and enforcement to our national security and our country. Do we have a country or not? Which is something the media rarely reports. Instead, talking about it's going to be mass deportation. It is the opposition party at work to undermine it.
Well, I agree with you, and that's why I sat on this couch and stunned a lot of people when I said several weeks ago that after deep conversations with my 11-year-old, who said, don't countries have fences between them, I removed my opposition to the border wall that the president proposes. Right. And I come back to the position, if we want to spend that kind of money, tens of billions of dollars for that wall, then God bless. I'm withdrawing my objections to it. Sovereignty is great, but human rights, I think, is also important. And I really do believe that you're going to have a schism now coming up, and it will be, the battle line will be on this whole idea of sanctuary cities, sanctuary churches,
human
sanctuary
rights
states.
Citizens, is that how you would frame it? I mean, countries have citizens, not just humans.
Citizens and legal residents and others that have a kind of a yellow probationary card, others that are red and we want them out. Of course, sovereignty means that you get to control who's in your country, but I think there's a way to do it where you don't have a war. Now, right now we're watching these town halls. Right now, the town halls basically are revolved around, and I don't think this is discussed enough, the repeal of Obamacare. Why? If you look at those audiences, they are generally speaking older white folks. Right. They are worried that any repeal of Obamacare will come at their expense. Why? Because if we do away with overcharging the young and healthy, they are subsidizing the old and sick.
But the problem, Geraldo, is they're largely not on Obamacare. Many of them are on Medicare.
But tell that to those crowds. I mean, that may be the largest.
Some guy came up and he said, I'm 72 years old, and I don't want him to take away my Obamacare. Wait a minute, you don't have Obamacare.
But put together, just visualize what you've seen already, these furious town halls. That's one thing. Now the sanctuary cities. Now they're coming to the church to take out Juan and Maria from the Roman Catholic diocese in Los Angeles. I think that you're going to have conflict, and it is the more you see of administration figures speaking reasonably, as General Kelly did and as Secretary Tillerson did, I think the more people will calm down. I want this president to succeed. We all do.
Well, of course, we all should want that. Every American citizen should want this country to succeed. We have the shot up there of CPAC. He's supposed to speak at 10:20 this morning. It's a real opportunity to speak to this audience that they want a conservative message, but also speak, Geraldo, to the American people. And top of his mind, we're talking about issues that are most important to the Americans as well, the economy. And you saw that meeting he had yesterday with manufacturing CEOs. One of them, the CEO of Dow, our own Neil Cavuto, talked to me. He said a year ago he compared the race to the Kardashians. He walked out of that meeting yesterday and he compared President Trump, to Reagan. He said he is really attracted to what he is talking about with the economy, with taxes. How important is that going to be in his speech this morning?
I think that and I don't want to harp on the Hispanic Latino population, but a new Pew survey indicated that Latinos, like most Americans, care most about the economy and national security, and then immigration, for obvious reasons. But the economy is foremost in most people's minds. And I think there is a reassurance, particularly people like those of us in this fortunate enough to have equity, to own stocks. We've seen tremendous prosperity since November 8th. Sure. Now, if the president can translate the investor success in recent months to a more generalized economic boom, I think that he does have a chance to be a terrific president.
We'll see him.
For sure.
Geraldo, always a pleasure. We thank you very much.
Stevie, always.
Geraldo, thank you.
We've been watching the screen at CPAC.